In this film, we are going to look at how to get ready for court.
So, is this process going to be challenging?
I understand having to do this is quite difficult. It's about your child. You're having probably to deal with the court system for the first time. So here's a vote of confidence. You're knocking at an open door. The court system's focused on the child and making sure that child has a relationship with both parents. So I understand you'll be nervous and concerned, but keep that in your head.
Going through the process of going to court was hard until I'd managed to find a McKenzie friend that would support us all the way. And since I'd done that, it was the biggest help I could have ever asked for.
In my experience of working with dads and young dads, a lot of the fears are around about not being able to have legal representation, like a solicitor or a lawyer. We always inform the dads we're working with that you actually, you don't need to have legal representation. You can do it yourself, and there is organisations out there that can help and give support. So we'll always encourage, the young men and the young dads to try and work this out as soon as possible, but not be afraid and think that they can't get that support because they don't have the financial support to be able to do that.
Yeah, first when I went through the family court stuff, I had a McKenzie friend instead of obviously a lawyer. And it was more or less just word-to-word stuff, like obviously he was letting me know what I've got to do, who I've got to speak to, all that sort of stuff, because obviously they're not allowed to speak inside the hearings, so everything in the hearing, it was more or less me having to assume what that meant while I was in there. So obviously a lawyer like solicitor and that would have been better, but obviously I couldn't afford one, and I didn't want one appointed to us. I'd rather have somebody who I trusted, so I had to go by more or less word of mouth, by my McKenzie friend from where he was actually from, Young Dads.
Knowing that court could be the final part of the process, it's important that you don't have to face it alone.
Which is why we want you to be as prepared as possible. Here are some things you should think about when you are going through your application.
I would always advise someone who's not represented to try and get a little bit of help. And there's various ways you can do this. You may have someone in the family or a friend who's very articulate. You may be able to use a charity to help you. There is an organisation at court called Support Through Court, which is a charity that can help you with the process, what happens, how to fill in the forms. And it's just a question of contacting them and they'll happily help you. They're very experienced. So get some help from somewhere. Don't do this on your own. Get sensible voice with you.
The courts were looking for me to be a protective factor for my daughter, to obviously make sure that she wasn't put in harm's way and that I could provide for her. With her being my dependent, I had to prove that I could support her, being able to provide whatever I needed to provide for her.
What they'll be looking for is why dad wants parental responsibility, what safeguards are in place to make sure that dad can have a safe environment for that child to be in, and the child's welfare is at the heart of what the family wants.
We've mentioned a McKenzie friend, but what do they do and who would be appropriate?
A McKenzie friend is someone that can be there to support you through the court process. Anyone can be a McKenzie friend. It can be a friend, a family member, someone from maybe an organisation that you're working with, a charity, or there is an organisation that does have McKenzie friends as well that you can get in touch with. There'll be information on where they are in your local area. What they could do is take notes, make sure you've got all the right paperwork that you need and help and support, talk to before you go to the meeting, and also kind of a debrief afterwards. They could put some stuff down that you might not have remembered, because it can be quite a, sometimes stressful and a little bit daunting if you've never done that before.
I got help for going through courts off an organisation which helped me fill in the forms in order to get the proof to be a responsible dad, for the courts to realise that I wasn't a problem as such, and the McKenzie friend helped us go through the process to get proof.
They can't legally represent you in court, or they can't be a legal representative. They can't talk on your behalf in court, but what they can do is give you support beforehand and afterwards as well.
Make sure that everyone knows this person's coming with you. Because if it's a relative that's been involved in a dispute between you and the mother, they would not be suitable and the court wouldn't agree to that.
So a McKenzie friend can be a great support, but make sure you've cleared them with the court.
Let's finish with the experiences of Jordan and Will.
The court process took about 6 months. I wasn't exactly happy because of how long it took, but in the end, I'm glad I got the results I wanted, and I got to see my daughter in the end. But because of the process through it, it took so long that I was starting to give up. Luckily, I had my McKenzie friend to help us show that I wanted to do it even more.
If I had to give any advice to dads in a similar situation, not to bottle it up and actually seek help. Because obviously I didn't do that myself and I bottled things up and it was making things worse. I was getting moments where I just felt really depressed. So my best advice would be to obviously speak to somebody and ask for that help and actually take some advice from other people. If it wasn't for me McKenzie friend and the charity itself, to be really honest, God knows what would have happened. Because I wasn't mentally there at the time. My head was all over the shop, so I didn't have a clue.
For all the dads out there, just don't give up hope and always know that you're always going to be good enough and no one can tell you how to be a dad. You've just got to do it yourself and prove your worth.